morning, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to see you. So today's, this is one of our first sessions of CES kicking off. And the topic for today is, where is the metaverse now? And to introduce myself, I am Katie Burke. I lead thought leadership and offerings for our Metaverse Continuum business group. And today I want to talk a little bit about some of our thought leadership that we've just published, and I'm going to bring a really exciting panel up to have a good conversation. This phrase, gradually then suddenly, we use it a lot when we talk about technological innovation. It just means that technology, it's on a beat of maturing, then all of a sudden it hits an inflection point and it starts to accelerate with disruption, with a lot of questionings happening. This is where we are with the metaverse right now. The underlying technologies of blockchain, XR technologies, AI, quantum, they've been maturing in their silos for a while now. But in the past year and a half, I would say, we're starting to see what we call the inflection points of these technologies colliding, opening up new experiences. So this term, gradually then suddenly, came from Ernest Hemingway, but this is where we are. And what this is introducing is the next evolution of the internet. And that's not small. The next evolution of the internet, if you think about our lives and how the internet intertwines with it, we see a lot of this as disruptive to all parts of our lives, whether we are, the way we shop, the way we connect with each other, the way we work. I mean, every part of our job is now, the internet is a part of how we do it. So at Accenture, we are positioning the metaverse in two simple areas that have a lot of complexity underneath. One is the internet of place. So the way the internet is evolving is, with internet of place, is where we're going to have a bit more of a spatial experience of how we interact with the internet. It's going to be, 3D content, 3D immersion with avatars, volumetric capture, which you're going to see in some of these amazing demos around here. There's a lot of ways that we're going to actually create new sensory experiences from the internet, from XR technologies. The second is the internet of ownership. And the concept of digital ownership of your identity, your money, your objects, this is happening at the same time. And so the concept of ownership is emerging, and it's going to interact into how we shop, how we identify ourselves on the web. So what does this mean for Accenture? We call ourselves the Metaverse Continuum, and the continuum is the big word here. Continuum means that it's going to blend the physical and digital. These things are happening simultaneously. They might collide, they might not. But a continuum means that a lot of the way the metaverse is happening is going to kind of emerge in multiple areas, different paces. It's going to change how the roles we are in life, our identities, from consumer to worker. All of these are going to be at different paces. It's going to change how we experience immersiveness in the real world versus also 2D to 3D. We're going to seamlessly start to merge between these. And then what we're looking at today versus what we know tomorrow, I mean, this is a rapidly changing field. I would say even a year ago, what we've learned in the past year, we've had to continually change and evolve to keep up with the pace of this acceleration. Gradually, then suddenly. We are now in the suddenly, and the pace is rapid at this point. So buckle up. I mean, we all have to kind of understand, help our clients, help you all figure out how your businesses interact and learn how to move into this new space and find value. The builders of Web3 are busy making applications. Many of our clients are launching NFT marketplaces right now. Blockchain and digital currencies are maturing so rapidly at the moment. It's incredible. So we have to keep up. But the next evolution of the internet is not this sci-fi, movies that we've all seen. It's not, it's here today. And a lot of industries are embracing it. There's new opportunities to make the big smaller. We are looking at it, at least at Accenture, to think of it in three ways. We're having to make this big topic into something that's a little bit more digestible. So we look at it as consumer-focused metaverse. There's enterprise, there's industrial and systems. These are impacting different parts of our client organization, so they're having different value emerge through each of these. Nothing is left untouched when you think about the way it's going to disrupt our client businesses. For customers, it's new opportunities to learn, to connect, to play, to consume. There's a lot of new, I would say, angles of what we did not know when the internet first started out. We did not know Uber would exist, but it exists now. For customers, there's going to be new behaviors that emerge, and they'll gravitate towards the new value that they are finding. And as brands, we are going to have to help follow and shepherd those with those new missions and those new occasions that those customers are on. It's coming to the workplace too, and it's actually coming more rapidly than we think. The immersiveness of the enterprise metaverse is happening for, at least across Accenture, we're seeing that happen faster than most other areas. And then the industrial and systems metaverse. I mean, this has actually been building on the technologies of digital twins. The advancements of XR data with real-time training and real-time applications is actually causing an incredible amount of value and efficiencies across our client organizations. But I want to just bring it back to us. When you talk about change this big, and it's easy for us to really kind of think this is it's far out, but it's here now. But it's really how we as people do it. And 3 years ago, when the pandemic hit, we've all had to really learn how to shape the way we do things. And it takes really different mindsets to do it. There are people in this room that helped me create our first internal metaverse for a program that had to move from in-person to digital. We are back here at CES in person. Last year it was digital. That was not an easy lift and shift of something that people enjoyed, the experiences people had, but we did it. And there are people in this room behind these walls that helped you do it. The dreamers and the doers. And I want to just push our mindsets to be a bit more creative on what our businesses will look like when the metaverse evolves, because it needs something a bit more creative than just saying, putting your 3D store into a 3D world. We need to think bigger, think more creatively, and think more boldly. And so what I want to talk to you about and show you is we've done a little video of what we believe around the metaverse. And it's a bit of a manifesto, if you will. So if the team will roll the video, and then we'll bring our panel up.
Moonshots. They exist in every one of us, but are chased by too few. They're the big ideas that seem almost impossible. They all start off the same, with a courageous, what if? What if moonshot thinking allowed us to reimagine the next evolution of the internet? What if we could design better realities with virtual realities? What if we could be the pioneers who build these new digital frontiers for businesses, society, and every one of us? As we craft these spaces and places and mix the magnificent metaverse with the wonders of Web3, we dance the lines between the logic of technology, the magic of storytelling, and the human desire for safety, privacy, and decency. We believe our possibilities are greater than our capabilities, and our dreamers and doers will merge trust with tokens, data with design, and code with kindness, in brave, brilliant, beautiful ways. Moonshots are just a mindset. They're contagious and empower us to take risks. They can make us so much better than our ambitions and accolades, and remind us that profits are not humanity's North Star. Chasing the seemingly impossible is our why and our purpose. And we believe it can not only change the world, it can change who we are.
I'd love to bring my panel up. So come on up, guys. Thank you. Great to have everyone here. I was going to actually welcome Kevin Lopes from ESPN, Ajayi from Meta, and Mark Curtis, who is with us from our Metaverse Continuum business group at Accenture. So would each of you do just a bit of a brief intro to who you are, and we can get started with a few questions.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ajayi. I'm the head of global sales for our B2B commercial business. So responsible for working with businesses across the globe in bringing Metaverse and future of work solutions to them.
So I just want to say, I work for ESPN, Kevin Lopes, VP of Business Development and Innovation, and I know a thing or two about sizzles. That sizzle was amazing. I mean, I think I need to know who wrote the copy for that. Moonshot is a mindset, data and trust and tokens.
I have a group of enthusiasts, so our employees are really passionate about this topic. It's very purpose-driven for them, so it is a small team that I run that ran that.
Great, sorry, I was just blown away. I felt like I was about to play like Diablo or something. I'm all fired up. Let's go. Again, my name is Kevin Lopes. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Innovation at ESPN. I've been with the company for 15 years. I think LinkedIn continually reminds me of that. I feel like I honestly have the best job in ESPN. I get to do business development deals. Some of those deals make money. I do business affairs deals. Most of those deals cost money. And I get to play around in innovation in partnership with great companies like Accenture. So really humbled and pleasure to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Mark, over to you.
Yeah, I'm Mark Curtis. I co-lead the Metaverse Continuum business group at Accenture with David Treat, my colleague down here. And prior to that, I started doing digital experiences in 1993. And in 2001, founded the company, the design company Fjord, which Accenture acquired, oh my goodness, 9.5 years ago now. And grew to be the biggest design company in the world under Accenture's embrace. So that's me.
Amazing. Well, let's talk Metaverse, or not. I want to just kind of call out that the Metaverse has many different definitions, many different opinions on what it is, what it's not, beliefs of what it exists or not. Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Because we know that with ESPN and Disney as the parent company, you're defining it a bit differently.
Sure. I mean, I think everyone defines it a little bit differently. I'd love to hear the panel's thoughts. But at ESPN and Disney, we define it as a digital immersive experience. I like to kind of throw out buzzword bingo. We have a very broad definition of a metaverse or a digital immersive experience. I would include Web3 into that. I would include utilizing new technologies, AR, VR, buzzword bingo, NFTs, all that. But at ESPN, our mission statement is really clear. We serve sports fans anytime, anywhere. And we believe that digital immersive experiences will be part of that future. And so it's incumbent upon us to meet our fans where they want to be. And I think it's clear, however you define it, whatever you call it, that these experiences will drive consumption across all media, including sports.
Ade, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just like to build on that. We think about the metaverse as the evolution of the internet, right? I think Mark said this 2021 when we changed our name from Facebook to Meta, right? Because we believe that, people want to be able to connect in a very immersive way, from gaming to interactions to community building, not just from a personal standpoint, but from a work standpoint as well, right? And so how do we bring an immersive presence to people in a 3D experience? And we believe the way you do that is through virtual reality and augmented reality.
Mark, I pretty much gave our definition a moment ago, so I'm going to just move on from you. Sorry about that. So our research indicates that the metaverse and culture have a tight relationship. Culture is happening on the internet. Subcultures are forming, new words, new lingo. Kevin, this has the potential to transform sports, and sport is such a big icon of culture around the world. People gather to watch. What do you see the metaverse or the technologies underneath doing for the trajectory of the future of sports?
Yeah, I can give you a quick opinion, but we'll see how it shakes out. But as you said, sports is culture, and culture is sports. People have an innate need to want to be part of a group, and what better way to show different groups than to follow fans? And so for me, I'm a New England Patriots fan. My first jersey was a Ben Coates jersey. I don't know how many people here know the name Ben Coates, but he was one of the greatest tight ends of the Patriots. And I've had that jersey for a long time. I've moved a lot since 1995, and I still have that jersey in my house. But for a lot of people of a particular generation who are younger than me, their first jersey might be a Fortnite skin. Like their first jersey might be LeBron James Fortnite skin that they play in Fortnite, or another digital item that they might still have that relationship with, that they're going to want to move, import to each individual digital immersive experience that they're a part of. And so for us, again, back to we serve sports fans anytime, anywhere, we need to make sure that we're a part of that at ESPN. And so, we're doing different things to move in that direction. But culture and sports are so synonymous that we need to make sure that we are going to where the youth are. And I think, Web3 technologies is critical to that.
In keeping with the culture theme, Meta's mission statement is around connecting others. It has, so how do you see immersiveness actually enhancing connection between people within the new XR technology-based experiences?
Yeah, so I'll say this, and I think you mentioned this during your intro, that the pandemic has changed a lot for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, and we're finding that more and more employees want to work remotely, and so it's driving a lot of hybrid workforce. We actually recently completed a survey where we surveyed about 2,000 employees and 400 business leaders across US and UK. And what we found in the survey responses was that 83% of employees say that they feel happiest when they are included in the work environment, right? And so in that same survey, those employees expressed that, the video calling, everyone knows about Zoom fatigue, it's really stifling that, right? And so we're beginning to hear from business leaders and from employees that they need a different technology that allows them to feel included and feel present in the workforce, right? And so the culture in terms of how people work today, we're seeing that evolution of cultural change, and we're beginning to see business leaders embrace this new technology. Now, we don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think a lot of business leaders are trying to really understand what does this mean for us in terms of how do we bring community together, how do we drive better productivity and engagement within the employee workforce. I mean, if you think about it, employee experience needs to be improved. If you have employees that are not happy in your organizations, right, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to keep them, keep your talent, right? If you think about it from an equity standpoint, like employees that are in the office should not have a better experience than employees who work from home, right? And when you think about it from, even from your operations standpoint, if your employees don't have the right technology to stay productive from wherever they are, then what happens to your operational efficiencies, right? And so the cultural change, right, within the workforce is evolving, that businesses need to start thinking about technology to enhance that.
And culture has value all around it. I mean, if you think out in the world or even inside the enterprise, Mark, when the internet first started, how did you see culture emerging in some of these places early on within design? And then what are you kind of picking up on today in this space?
So it's going to sound very philosophical, but every time you add a new dimension into mankind's imagination, you get really significant shifts happening. Now, I think you can go back and say that happened in the Renaissance in northern Italy, where pretty much at the same time, artists began to discover that they could paint in 3 dimensions, which they could not do before, or at least they'd lost the ability to. And at pretty much the same time, Copernicus, Galileo, others, they began to see space in a completely different way. I think those two marched in lockstep. Same thing beginning of the 20th century. Einstein begins to explore a 4th dimension, which is time. What happens, Picasso begins to embed time in his paintings, particularly in one, Demoiselle d'Avignon. There was this moment when it happened. That had huge ramifications for culture, for the way we represent ourselves, for the way we think about things. It is difficult to imagine, but it's going to happen, the consequences of now adding in this extra dimension of unlimited new worlds we can build and explore all around us all the time, either mapped to the existing world, AR, or in their own completely discrete spaces, VR, or maybe bringing them together. That's why we talk about the continuum. It's almost unimaginable what cultural changes those will make, but they will be significant. And I think it's important to ground our understanding of where we are right now. We're at a major epochal moment in mankind's thinking about culture and how we approach things.
Any builds off of that?
I mean, I think Mark and I need to share a bottle of wine, and I just need to listen to him talk for like an hour, because that's fascinating, but I agree. I mean, for us, the question is like the internet and culture. I mean, at ESPN, we have a long history of innovation. Some work, some don't, right? And, for us, probably the best example of failing fast and learning from it is the ESPN phone. Does anyone here remember the ESPN phone? I see some heads nodding. So, like 2006, I think, we had a flip phone. It was a little ugly. The plans were a little expensive, and we shut it down after 9 months. But we learned a lot. And we weren't wrong that fans wanted 24/7 access to sports highlights, video, and content. And that those learnings from that ended up powering what the ESPN app is today. And the ESPN app is, I won't throw a bunch of numbers at you, but is significant market share of sports consumption in North America and globally. And so we believe that like digital immersive experiences are the next version of, access to the internet 24/7, like 5G technology, like constant communication. And so we're excited to test and learn about what that could mean for our business.
I think I'd like to pick up, I think the mobile phone era analogy is a really good one. And I remember we were doing a lot of work at the time with Nokia, huge amounts of work with Nokia in the early 2000s. And we were working on their new TV phones they were developing at the time. And I remember, it was super secret, but when you could talk to people about it outside, they would basically go, I don't believe you. That's just stupid. People are not going to watch TV on a phone, and the device is too big and everything. We know now, and that's why so many people are smiling when I talk about this. We know now that the people who said that was stupid were wrong. But they felt convinced at the time. What happened there over time was that a number of different, Katie, you alluded to this earlier on in your intro, a number of different technologies began to come together in the same space. GPS, a new kind of, touch and swipe, great cameras. And as those things come together, you get these new combinations of technology. And that's a moment at which, let's face it, in particular entrepreneurs, spot opportunities based on human needs and go, ooh, we could use this to fix a problem. And the problem they fix is then called Uber.
Right.
But that was unimaginable in 2003, pretty much, when you were doing your phone.
And it issued in a lot of behavior changes too. I mean, I think we've read a lot of the headlines around this, but 15 years ago, the thought of getting in a stranger's car, the thought of sleeping in a stranger's home, was not part of our behavior or norms of behavior. And so what I want to kind of pull out, and I'm coming back to culture just because I do believe that culture is going to be a big driver of the metaverse. The behaviors changes that these technologies are going to unlock, I'm not clear that we have insight into a lot of that at the moment, but we will. We call these the unknown unknowns at the moment. We would not have thought about Uber. We would not have thought about Airbnb 15 years ago, because we just had this inhibition in our head that we would not do that behaviorally. But I do think that some of these technologies are going to shift that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I used to work for a different organization before where they were one of the biggest players in the telco, in the telephone business space, right? Before Apple, and they were known to be one of the best enterprise solution providers when it came to mobile devices. And then the whole concept of bring your own device came, and employees were bringing their own devices to work, and it forced organizations to think differently about the technology that they provided to the employees, all right? And I believe that's going to happen in the metaverse as well, where consumers are bringing solutions and technology into the workplace and driving CIOs and CTOs to really think about the type of technology they put in the hands of their employees.
I got to say, Ade, I had not thought about that at all. That is such an interesting idea, that when we begin to get mass market, really mass market devices, with all respect to Oculus, just a step beyond that, that it's that people will bring those to work, and then they will begin to bring expectations with them, and that's so interesting. Love that.
So I'm going to pull us to a question in the same spirit around the sudden acceleration of AI and creativity. I would say, in the past 6 months with Chat GPT or Stable Diffusion, it appears that AI is now in the hands of everyday users. And how are you embracing this in your organizations? Are you planning what's exciting, what's nerve-wracking? There's just kind of, how are you looking at this advancement, and how does it play into your metaverse or innovation strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited about AI at ESPN. We've got a couple public partnerships where we use it to help tell better stories and be more efficient with our time and our people. I mean, we've got an agreement with a company called WSC Sports that we send them hundreds of feeds a day, maybe even 1,000 feeds a day, and then they, with a couple inputs, we can say we want all the dunks from Giannis, we want the best 5 plays of the game, or we want this combination of plays, and their AI will auto-clip those highlights for us in 2 seconds, then send it right back to us. And so we could auto-publish those to social platforms. We have some manual curation there as well, but it's just so much faster. And so instead of having an army of production assistants cutting the highlight, we can use those resources to better decide how best to use the highlight from a contextual storytelling point of view, as opposed to taking the time to cut those highlights. The highlights show up. And so there's certainly more manual intervention as well. But we are leaning on WC to help in that area. More theoretical, well, I'll give you one more what's happening now. We have a couple partnerships where we're using data feeds to write previews and recaps for underserved sports. We've just got so many sports out there that I'd love to have someone write a preview and a recap for, but it's just impossible to deploy that many resources. And so we have a computer take data feeds and effectively write a preview for Rhode Island women's basketball. I'm a huge fan of Rhode Island's women's basketball, but the resources that we get back for covering that might not justify a human writing that article.
Right.
And so we're really excited about all of those. Theoretically, with ChatGPT, the possibilities for that could increase. We're currently testing in the ESPN Edge Innovation Center now, in partnership with Microsoft. We've got 4 million tapes in a Bristol, Connecticut warehouse that are collecting dust and degrading. There's film, there's Digibeta, Betamax, VHS, and we don't entirely know everything that's there. And so we're using a company that has effectively web scraped the internet and can say, well, of those 4 million tapes, we think you should digitize these 1,000 first, because these things happen, we think the highest revenue potential exists. And then we can utilize a partnership with Microsoft to digitize those 1,000 tapes, and then we could better serve highlights customized to fans. If we've got the 1998 Rhode Island men's basketball victory against Paul Pierce in Kansas to go to the Elite Eight, we have those highlights, and we know that the anniversary of that date is tomorrow, then we can serve that custom to me, individual to me. And so play that forward with 4 million tapes. How much better could a personalization engine be based on that AI and that data?
It's incredible.
So we're excited about it, and we're testing some things in the area.
Mark, AI and creativity were part of our life trends that we just published last month. How do you see the acceleration of AI and what might be next for metaverse world building, for example?
So there may be people out there may be people in this room who would have seen this coming in January last year, but I certainly didn't. This has been the fastest moving tech trend which we will see in the hands of consumers that I can remember seeing in the recent past. And so much so that when we wrote the trend, we were largely focusing on imagery, and then ChatGPT came out, a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we had to rewrite a section of the trend just as we were about to go to bed with it because of the speed at which it's moving, and it is really exceptional. That trajectory already is going from imagery, we know text is there already, it's going to 3D, that's going to be enormously important. Let's come back to 3D in a moment.
Sure.
But that's going to be enormously important. It's going to video, we're already seeing, Meta have been exploring with this, I think. It's going to video, and then it's going to go to spaces. And what that means in simple terms is, whereas 4 years ago I was watching my son laboriously create spaces in Minecraft, and watching him and thinking, I'm not going to do that, because that looks pretty boring trying to be. He loved it, as did millions of others. In the near future, he's going to be able just to describe what he wants, and that space will be built. That is going to absolutely supercharge the metaverse. So for those people out there who are doubting the speed at which the metaverse is going to happen, and I stand by what Katie said earlier, it's gradually then suddenly, it will shift us into the suddenly. All that needs to happen then, and somebody is going to do it, is to create the rails that link those different spaces together. So think of it a little bit like what MySpace did. MySpace jumped on blogging, and they went, okay, blogging's beginning to become a bit of a thing. Interestingly, I can remember it very clearly, particularly amongst teenage girls in California, who understood some of the power of the medium, and they wanted to share with each other. It was fundamentally, they saw the social aspect of it. MySpace saw that, and I know MySpace, then eventually failed because of Meta, etc. But what they did is they basically connected together different spaces which looked extremely different. Somebody's going to create those rails.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then we see this really explode. So, because that's what creator economy powered at that stage. And that is why, and again, when we started talking about Metaverse slightly over a year ago, personally, I didn't see that coming. I'm now very excited about the role, and it's kind of slightly, of course, that artificial intelligence and creativity is going to play in creating this. I think it's the most probably important catalyst over the next year.
Well, I want to move us to...
Could we, Casey, I just want to, I'd be really interested on Arday's thoughts on that as well, given that you must be looking, you know all about creator economy, and you're in the middle of Metaverse as well. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy has always been that we're not going to be the only ones to create the metaverse, right? From the day one, we've always said that we believe partners like Accenture and other partners that we work with, like we're going to build the metaverse together, right? And so a lot of the work that we're doing right now is building a lot of horizontal solutions that allows for the connectivity, the connectors that you're talking about, whether it's the work that we're doing with the likes of Adobe, with Microsoft, with Accenture. We want to make sure that we're building the horizontal solution that allows, like, when you think about it from a hub and spoke standpoint, right? We create the hub and you have multiple spokes that allows businesses to be able to drive value very quickly from the metaverse.
Excellent.
If I could jump on the one thing that Mark said, I feel like I'm both on the panel and in the audience because I'm just like drinking in everything he's saying. But for me, I am so bullish and believe 100% in that like AI and design and ChatGPT, just the power of artificial intelligence is like gonna all of a sudden drastically accelerate. And I'm not clearly the expert that you are, but like in my life, there's a couple times I've been just so sure about something. And I think one of those times is now. Like I remember 2002, 2001 being in college, being able to unplug an Ethernet cord and not snake it to our various bedrooms, and holding my laptop going, I have the internet, and there's no cord plugged into it. Like my mind exploded. I'm like, this is gonna change everything. I feel like I'm there right now with like AI. I'm like, this is gonna change everything.
So what I pick out of what you said is when it lands in people's heads and they go, got it, that's a big tipping point moment. And always when we look at trends and technology, look for that tipping point moment where mass gets it. So I had this conversation, not quite the same as you, but similar, with my daughter who's in third year at college in the UK. And I was showing her and talking to her about ChatGPT, but I didn't need to because somebody had sent it to her already. And guess what she's talking about? Can I do my essays using this? And will the university be able to spot it? The good news is, from my point of view as her father, that morally she said, I'm not going to go there, which I was proud about. But we discussed this, and she said, I can't be sure that plenty of students won't go there. Why would they not go there? And this unpacks a whole lot of stuff, which is kind of off camera for the metaverse. But the reason I'm saying it is because she's understood it at some visceral level, and she's going, I get the power. And I think the same thing will happen with place creation, that as soon as we put it in the hands of, what self-respecting 11-year-old is not right now going to do their homework using Stable Diffusion or Midjourney if they can illustrate their history essay with a picture of the battle or whatever it is that they're talking about. They're going to do it. Of course they are. I would.
It helps tell a better story. So I'm pretty excited too. I mean, I will say the speed of adoption of this is fantastic. because the kids are getting it like this. We're seeing value as assistance to us. We've used it in our life trends, and it's on our Accenture.com page. Every single image within our report is AI generated. The text prompts are based on our key messages within each page, and the imagery is there. And it's one of the most fantastic ways that I have seen words and images come together in new ways, and what that means for processing, for learning. I've found it to be incredible. I'm going to move us to one of the next topics, if that's okay, is the value today. And our research and our just recently released thought leadership, the big headline that we're seeing is that over the next 3 years, we've interviewed executives across all industries, and they are anticipating, on average, 4.2% of their revenues to come from Metaverse products, business models, really positioning the Metaverse as a growth channel for them. Adi, what is your view on it as, in two lenses? I'm going to ask you. One is from Meta, as the organization. You're such an iconic, bellwether of how you are seeing this, but also what are you hearing from your clients in this space and where value is today?
Absolutely. I think for us, we are, when we talked about moving a significant number of our employees to remote employees in the next 5 to 10 years, we started building solutions to enable that, right? And so when you think about the way I connect today, even with my global team, we do it leveraging the virtual reality and augmented reality. I meet with them in Horizon workrooms, and it's just a different experience. It's very immersive. It feels like I'm right next to them. We, fist bump. We, do high fives. And the collaborative session is very, very different from what it feels like when you do it on a Zoom call, right? And beyond just the collaboration that we experience, we're using, the Metaverse when it comes to training. Our learning and development team uses it to push out training. And what we're hearing, not just from our internal teams, but from customers, is that data retention when it comes to training people using immersive experience. I mean, Accenture can speak to this as well, because you guys are one of the biggest users of VR from a training standpoint. And so we're seeing that businesses are leveraging the Metaverse in different forms and shape. In fact, in the survey that I referenced, 74% of business leaders that we surveyed said that they are investing in AR, VR, Metaverse today, and about 64% of them feel like they are behind competitors when it comes to AR, VR investments, right? And when I talk to customers today across the globe, right, pick any industry, pick any vertical. I love to talk about the automobile, like the auto manufacturer industry. You look at the value chain from production all the way to getting the cars into the dealerships and getting people to drive and experience it. They are looking at ways to use the Metaverse to solve for that, right? When it comes to designing the cars from concept, they use VR, AR to create the 3D designs of the cars. When they have a prototype to work on, they use 3D devices like VR, AR to actually create what the interior of the car would look like, and use that experience to train the technicians and the engineers who are working on the car, right? And it was very interesting when one of the biggest auto manufacturer was talking to us just a few months ago. One of the biggest challenges they have today is getting enough cars into dealership for consumers to be able to test drive. And they are thinking about building a test drive experience in VR or AR, where they can actually ship the devices to consumers at home to experience the car, right? So that they don't have to come into the dealership, right? And so we're seeing different use cases, from automobile to pharmaceutical to medicine, where businesses are really thinking about how do we use the Metaverse today to solve business problems that we're dealing with.
Kevin, what about you? You've been experimenting a lot with immersive technologies and Web3. Where are you seeing value emerge in your area?
Sure, I would say we're probably still in the early stages of testing and learning, but we have had some early success. I mean, broadly speaking, the Walt Disney Company, including ESPN, have had some success in our broad definition of digital immersive experiences with NFTs. And so Disney's done very well in that. We've done a couple executions on NFTs, both from linking content to a digital item so that folks can have a better relationship to the content and builds awareness. We auctioned off a bunch of digital NFTs as part of Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowl victories. We had an NFT auction. If you won the auction, there was a digital experience and a real-world experience. You could fly down to Tampa Bay and you could meet Tom, get a signed football. And so we've done a lot of testing there. More traditionally, we have a nice relationship with Meta, and they provided us a good number of headsets, not anywhere close to the hundreds of thousands that Accenture has deployed. But we've done a lot of internal testing on what sports make sense in VR for us. And so we've had non-publicly available events shot in VR that I've sent to 40 to 50 executives within ESPN and put a headset on their head and said, look at this, what do you think? And so we've done a lot of testing there, and we're ready to potentially move in that direction if and when the marketplace demands it. I think it's incumbent upon any content creative organization to anticipate the future and be ready for it, as opposed to getting stuck flat-footed when all of a sudden things change.
Right.
So we're excited about it, but to full admission, we are certainly in the early days.
Excellent. And Mark, in your conversations across our industries and clients, where are you seeing value come from today?
So I think the value is likely to emerge first on the enterprise side and in industrial, as you alluded to earlier on, slightly before consumer. Despite my enthusiasm for what will happen with consumer-created spaces, I think we're likely to see more value. We are seeing more value emerge in enterprise. And the reason for that is a simple one, which is that you've got largely a captive audience. The difficulty is if you want to make something happen, you've got to make sure, if you want to go particularly full immersion, and there's not really enough AR devices out there yet, then you need an installed user base who are going to do it and come back to it a second time. And that base is not yet high enough, and you've got to do a lot of hard work in order to get them out there. I mean, it's there, but you've really got to do a lot of marketing. The internal marketing required to get 1,000 engineers to use your internal augmented reality experience, that's much less. It's much easier. You've got a closed group. You can market to them very easily. So I think we're more likely to see more compelling stories coming out of enterprise and industrial. We've done work with Mars, for example, improving the way in which they're, with Skittles, the way in which their confectionery manufacturing process happens in real time, creating collaborative ways for people to look at that, see it as a digital twin, etc. I think where we might see things emerge quite soon, particularly with financial services, will be 3D data visualization. I think this is largely an underexplored area, but I've been talking a lot with banks about the potential for us to add a Z-axis into the way in which people look at their money. So if you think about the way you look at money, typically you're looking at it as a bank statement. I mean, now you get a bank statement on your phone and it's updated in real time, which is way better than what we had 30 years ago, but it's still in 2D. If you can visualize your money and your future in 3 dimensions, you can see the past of your money and your future of money. If you can get really immersive with that, either in AR or VR, what does that allow us to create customer support products if you're in a bank or an insurance company or whatever? I think we'll see some rapid advances on that in the next 2 or 3 years. I think there's real value just waiting to be unlocked right there. So those are the sorts of areas I think we should be looking at. And actually, lastly, we were going to talk about the digital twin. I think that model of digital twin, what I like about it is it's very easy to explain what a digital twin is. But we think about it in an industrial context, like the digital twin of a jet engine, for example, or a large power plant. But what if you created the digital twin of somebody's house? That's such an easy, again, talking with friends who don't really understand the metaverse, that's an easy thing to convey. Imagine you had a digital twin of your house where all the things that come in and out of your house get monitored, where you can measure them, where you can tokenize them. In fact, where the whole house becomes a token, and then when you transact and sell the apartment or the house, somebody else takes that on board and that becomes proof of ownership. And they too can see the power supply flow that's happened in the house in the past. And that speaks to a lot of what we see on the show floor here with the Internet of Things, and the way that's developing very rapidly, particularly in the hall next door. It's worth going and having a look. So I think look for those concepts which are easy for people to lean into, like digital twin of my house. Or 3D visualization of money. that's where I think things will go next.
Well, we are out of time. I want to thank everyone up here for the brilliant insights that we've had. And honestly, we'll be around for a few moments to talk afterwards. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Katie.